Derealization and depersonalization, or DERP for short, are the set of symptoms related to not feeling that things are real, or not feeling that you're you. When I struggled with mental illness, this came up in a bunch of different ways. So around the feeling that I wasn't me, I would do things like stare at pictures of myself and try to feel like that was actually a picture of me and try to be certain that was me. As the mental illness got worse, I would have to stare for longer and longer at pictures and even at reflections and just kind of sit there trying to get this feeling that that was actually me. I would check my ID frequently because I was convinced that maybe I wasn't actually me, or maybe I was impersonating somebody else. I was convinced that anytime I had to hand over my ID, that I was going to get arrested because surely the person I was handing it to was going to look at it and see that I was somebody else somehow, and then I would get arrested because I was impersonating somebody. I wasn't actually me. With derealization, that began to infect all of the different compulsions and experiences with which I was struggling, and that came up in that I could no longer believe my compulsions. So I would do a compulsion, like say check the stove or unplug an appliance, and then I would kind of have to stand there and just watch it. So either I'd have to watch the stove, or I remember times I would unplug an appliance and then I could see the plug was out, I could see the outlet, and I would still not believe that the appliance was actually unplugged. And I might have to touch it again and move it, and even then in my head, it was still as though, well, even though I can see it's unplugged, what if it's actually plugged in? I also began to have trouble with numbers. Like I would count a number of things, like say a number of printouts. Maybe I was supposed to count 10 printouts, so I would count them, I need 10 printouts, and I would count them, and there are 10 there. But then in my head it'd be like, well, what if there aren't actually 10 there? And then I would have to count them again, and then maybe I would add an extra one in, or maybe I would take one out, and the reality of numbers began to become disconnected from kind of like the number in my head. Those are just some examples. For each person, DERP could come up in multiple different ways. Don't get too hung up on the superficial characteristics of the symptoms. You might have completely different superficial symptoms connected to DERP. It doesn't matter what the superficial characteristics of those symptoms are, however, for you, what I really want to emphasize in this video to help you with overcoming this is to recognize that derealization and depersonalization are totally natural outcomes of engaging in compulsions to be certain, to feel right, and to feel that things are true. So there's two things to look at when you're starting to get over this. The first is to understand that addictive feedback loop that you get started every time you feel good about getting rid of uncertainty. If I engage in a compulsion, get this big hit of uncertainty, and I love that, and I love feeling certain, I love feeling like myself, and I love feeling grounded and right, and that things are real, my brain is going to recognize that, right? It's going to help me try to get that again, but the way it's going to help me do that is by giving me increasingly large and complex amounts of uncertainty. And this is just like any addiction. If you like the high, your brain is going to give you the withdrawal so you can try to get the high again. But you have to keep trying to get more of a high. This is just like with any addiction. If you enjoy getting that high, then your brain has to give you the withdrawal. Your brain figures if you liked getting rid of that little uncertainty, then you're going to love getting rid of this big uncertainty. But eventually your brain will just keep going up and up and up, and the uncertainties get more and more complex to the point that they're unsolvable. Something like, what if I'm not real? What if that's not real? How can you prove that? How can you be certain about that? Right? So eventually, it's just totally natural that as we engage in more compulsions, we get to that point, like with any addiction, where you're constantly engaging in the compulsions, and no matter how much you engage in them, you can no longer get that feeling that you were originally chasing after, and you're just left with this kind of constant feeling of withdrawal, or in the case of DERP, this constant feeling that things are not real, that you are not you. The second thing to look at is actually a set of things. It's your beliefs, your judgments, and your desires. And this is how, again, we train our brain to help us, but that help becomes a very unpleasant experience. So say we believe that it's very bad to not feel like ourselves, or to not feel that things are real, to not feel grounded, to not feel true. So we basically tell our brain that's a very dangerous thing. Watch out for that, because if that happens, that's bad. So then our brain starts, again, being helpful. It wants to check and make sure, is that dangerous thing happening? But that's a very subjective thing, so you're going to start engaging in lots of judgments, judging your internal experience, judging your external experience. Inevitably, you are going to see things and feel things that you are not sure whether they're real or true or yourself, whatever. And then you're going to desire getting rid of that because that means you're in the danger zone. So that kicks your brain into fight or flight response. You're going to get anxious. You're going to feel bad, unpleasant feelings and thoughts because of those experiences, and you're going to want to get rid of them. You're going to want to avoid those experiences. And that kind of creates this negative feedback loop. So if we looked at that first one, it's about that addictive loop. So we want to get that feeling of certainty and we chase after it. At the same time, there's this other loop working in the background where we're trying to avoid experiences. And these start to work with each other. We hate the experience of things not feeling real, so we try to avoid that more and more. We want that experience of things feeling real, and so we chase after that more and more. But unfortunately, that just leads to us feeling that things are less and less real, that we're less and less ourselves. The way over this is to cut out the compulsions and throw out those unhelpful beliefs that are pushing you into making those judgments, leading to the desire to get rid of those experiences. You may want to get rid of the derealization and depersonalization because you just want to be certain again. You want to feel that things are real. But really, do not focus there, because that is a direct result of the compulsions, the things you're doing to get rid of uncertainty. The things you're doing to get rid of that feeling that things aren't real or that you're not you. And you may not see those things as compulsions. You may enjoy doing them. Enjoying them is what got you to this point. If you're doing things to get rid of uncertainty, it is only natural that the more you do that, you'll eventually get to this point where you're no longer able to be certain at all. So another way you could look at it is like this. So say you're hitting yourself in the face. And you keep hitting yourself in the face. First, you might be like, I have a face pain disorder. I don't know what's causing that. You might try to get help for your face pain disorder. But the thing is, you keep hitting yourself in the face. So even if, say you went and you took some medication, you got rid of the face pain, but you kept hitting yourself in the face, eventually your nose might start to bleed. And then you can be like, oh no, now not only do I have face pain disorder, now I have nose bleeding disorder. Okay? The nose bleeding disorder, that's like DERP. That's the derealization, depersonalization. It is a natural result of hitting yourself in the face. Just like the face pain disorder was also a natural result of hitting yourself in the face. These are both symptoms. What we have to go after is the thing that's causing the symptoms, the hitting ourselves in the face. Okay? Ow. I know that dealing with DERP is a very difficult experience, but it is possible to get over it. It does, however, involve shifting the focus away from that experience to what's causing it. So look at the actions that you're engaging as a reaction to uncertainty, because those are likely giving you more uncertainty and you're not enjoying that. And then also look at the beliefs you may hold around these experiences, because as long as you hold beliefs that these aren't experiences you can have and you shouldn't have them, that actually guarantees you're going to have them more. So throwing out those unhelpful beliefs, cutting out those judgments, is going to be a huge help to getting over this. Really.